I think that's all we have today.
For our runners?
Yeah, and we've got Winona now. She's going to be with us for the end of the month. I'm going to turn it over to Kristen, and she's going to read the names of the runners. And
Staff Sergeant Dimitri Locke, United States Army. Corporal James M. Hale, United States Army. Senior Airman Sabrina Sean Autry, United States Air Force. Sergeant Joshua Nathan Rodriguez, United States Army. Private First Class Paul Anthony Honto, United States Army. Private Janelle F. King, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Anthony Slentz, United States Air Force. Lance Corporal Juan Lopez Castaneda, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Jacob J. Tobes, United States Marine Corps. Private First Class Daniel A. C. McGuire, United States Marine Corps. Corporal Anthony G. Marine Corps. Private Zachary Scott Mayer, United States Army. Private First Class Paul E. Conlon Jr., United States Army. First Lieutenant Donald C. Carwile, United States Army. Sergeant Kendale Blaine Carney, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Christopher D. Rogers, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Cody Gene Herring, United States Air Force. Airman Kamensky Don Ray Watson, United States Air Force. Lance Corporal Christopher George Carasculo, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer Second Class Ethan Scott Allen, United States Navy. Colonel Roger Michael Walt Thompson, United States Army. Private First Class Jonathan L. Lusher, United States Army National Guard. Lance Corporal Travis M. Stottlemyre, United States Marine Corps. Specialist Robert John Nolan Jr., United States Army. Tech Sergeant Laverne East Jr., United States Air Force. Corporal Tony Martinez, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant First Class George Stansfield, United States Army. Private First Class Stephen Paul Clark, United States Army. Staff Sergeant David L. Paquette, United States Army. Sergeant First Class David J. Todd Jr., United States Army. Master Sergeant Louis Bernard Henderson, United States Air Force.
Tech Sergeant Ryan Oliver Gonzalez, United States Air Force. Staff Sergeant Brian E. Studer, United States Army. Sergeant Michael Otto Shiver II, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Norman G. Middleton, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Michael Lee McCaskill, United States Army. Lance Corporal Zachary Adam Stein, United States Marine Corps. Major Matthew Jeremy Stapleton, United States Army. Petty Officer George Thomas Cashier Jr., United States Navy. Staff Sergeant Sean Richard Stevenson, United States Army. Specialist Jason Myron Woodruff, United States Army. Specialist Stephen J. Fitzmaurice, United States Army. Staff Sergeant John Randall Monroe, United States Army. Petty Officer Third Class Michael Patrick Avery, United States Navy. Specialist Carlo E. Alfonso, United States Army. Private Tom Q. United States Army. Staff Sergeant Ernesto Valoria Verbo Jr., United States Army. Corporal Brandon Mackenzie Stewart, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer Joseph Eldridge Bune, United States Navy. Seaman Jerome Christian Swanson, United States Navy. Petty Officer Third Class Ryan Richard Pringle, United States Navy. Master Chief Petty Officer Kevin Walter Page, United States Navy. Sergeant Major Aubrey Caruso Pinkerton, United States Army. Specialist Michael L. Gonzalez, United States Army. Specialist George Lewis Police Neve, United States Army. Petty Officer Third Class Daniel Ellis Whitehead, United States Navy. Private First Class Dustin Mark Tucker, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Casey Aaron Watchman, United States Air Force. Private First Class Urban Lee Cady, United States Army. Sergeant Omar Lopez, United States Army. Tech Sergeant Daniel Lee Schoen, United States Air Force. Staff Sergeant Jacob Gladstone Eds, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer Joshua Harris, United States Navy.
Bear with me.
Staff Sergeant Renee Antoinette DeVille, United States Army. Specialist Richard David Sitton, United States Army. Airman Kyle Douglas King, United States Air Force. Master Sergeant Mark Jerome Seward, United States Air Force. Sergeant First Class Gregory A. Rodriguez, United States Army. Private First Class Michael John Hartford, United States Army. Private First Class Patrick W. May, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Aaron Marie Schoen, United States Air Force. Sergeant James Harley Gordon II, United States Army. Chief Warrant Officer Rick Ashby Matson, United States Army. Private Vincent C. Winston Jr., United States Army. Sergeant Kenneth W. Main, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Arthur Linwood Tyree Jr., United States Army. Staff Sergeant Huey Nguyen, United States Army. Private Jordan P.R. Thibault, United States Army. Sergeant Micah Sterling Richmond, United States Marine Corps. Lieutenant General Tyler Martin Shalone, United States Navy. Private Joseph Paul Hawkins, United States Army. Private Michael R. Dinterman, United States Army. Specialist Marquez I. Knight, United States Army. Command Sergeant Glenn Edward Sconiers, United States Air Force. Petty Officer Vivian Dale Moss, United States Navy. Corporal Jason Salvino Berta, United States Marine Corps. First Lieutenant Robert Bartlett Fletcher, United States Army. First Lieutenant Nicholas A. Madrazo, United States Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant Jacqueline Elaine Joyner, United States Army. Captain Jesse Melton III, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer Third Class Eichmann A. Strickland, United States Navy. Staff Sergeant First Class Daniel R. Sexton, United States Army. Chief Warrant Officer Michael Slebnick, sorry about that, United States Army. Private Michael W. Murdoch, United States Army. Specialist Aaron Lynn Almendinger, United States Army. Chief Petty Officer Jason Richard Frywald, United States Navy. Senior Chief Petty Officer John Wayne Markham, United States Navy. Lieutenant David Scott Hill, United States Navy. Commander Michael Scott Harrington, United States Navy. Lieutenant Commander John Otto Wrights, United States Navy. Private First Class Desmond Morset, United States Army. Private First Class Shelley Monique Brown, United States Army. Private First Class Alexander Llewellyn Thomas, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Darius J. Dawson, United States Army. Sergeant Wesley R. Durbin, United States Army. Colonel Sidney J. Marcaud, Jr., United States Army. Lieutenant Colonel Ralph J. Marino, United States Army. Private First Class Anthony Norman Gonzalez, United States Marine Corps. Seaman Drayton Stephen Grippler, United States Navy. Sergeant Major Robert Christopher Chandler, United States Army. Private First Class Ernie Joe Villarreal, United States Marine Corps. Corporal Leonardo A. Contreras, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Joshua W. Harris, United States Air National Guard. Private Leonard J. Golzinski, United States Army. Chief Warrant Officer Brady Joe Rudolph, United States Army. Sergeant Daniel Michael Eschbach, United States Army. Corporal Michael E. Thomas, United States Army. Sergeant Anthony Luke Mason, United States Army. Chief Warrant Officer Corey Ardell Edwards, United States Army. Sergeant Major Julio Cesar Ordonez, United States Army. First Lieutenant Robert Vallejo II, United States Army. Private Joseph Unejo Idoja, apologies, United States Army. Captain Derek D. Wright, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Jason A. Vasquez, United States Army. First Lieutenant Mosen A. Nakvi, United States Army. Captain Bruce E. Hayes, United States Air National Guard. Specialist Drew Christopher McDaniel, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Wesley Garrett Hunter, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Brandon W. Farley, United States Army. Lieutenant Colonel Jack Stewart Randall, United States Army, and Lieutenant Colonel James L. Wiley, United States Army. You guys ready?
Staff Sergeant Melinda J. Marth, Corporal, United States Army. Corporal Jamie Ryan Vines, U.S. Marine Corps. Sergeant John William Brady, U.S. Marine Corps. Airman Recruit Paul Anthony Brittingham, U.S. Navy. Private Richard Dale Russell, III, U.S. Army. Sergeant First Class Stephen Edward Wood, U.S. Army. Private Joseph F. Gonzalez, U.S. Army. Captain Bruno G. Desolani, U.S. Army. Sergeant. Staff Sergeant Nathan M. Cox, U.S. Army. Sergeant First Class Patrick Glenn Henderson, U.S. Army. Specialist Travis Dillon Etzel, U.S. Army. Major Rodolfo I. Rodriguez, U.S. Air Force. Petty Officer 3, 3rd Class Michael Allen Gentile, U.S. Navy. Petty Officer 3rd Class Matthew Bryant, U.S. Navy. Staff Sergeant Matthew J. Taylor, U.S. Army. Airman First Class Rashad Jamal Seals, U.S. Air Force. Senior Chief Petty Officer James Guerrero Peralta, U.S. Navy. Seaman Recruit Corey Arthur Lemary, U.S. Navy. Petty Officer 3rd Class Sean David Spencer, U.S. Navy. Private John James Reddy, U.S. Army. Master Sergeant Mark Stephen Schwartz, United States Air Force. First Lieutenant Thomas Joseph Brown, U.S. Army. Sergeant Jeffrey Robert Healy, U.S. Army. Sergeant Monte Bolduc Todisman, U.S. Army. Captain Michael J. Metters, U.S. Army. Airman Colin Lamar Cooper, U.S. Air Force. That's right. Specialist James Mingot, U.S. Army. Private Dominique Quantache Brooks, U.S. Army. Staff Sergeant Ronald Phillips Jr., U.S. Army. Senior Airman Samantha Viola Scothorpe, U.S. Air Force. Corporal John Gabriel Buen Camino, U.S. Marine Corps. Sergeant Chadwick Howard House, U.S. Marine Corps. Lieutenant Commander Gregory Ballinger, U.S. Navy. Sergeant Marcus Lyman, U.S. Army.
Private First Class Jason Michael Price, United States Army. Private Daryl Lamont Britt, United States Army. Specialist Jamel Mel Antoine Bryant, United States Army. Specialist Scott Wayne Vickery, United States Army. Specialist Jared Scott Arn, United States Army. Sergeant William E. Hassenflue, United States Army. Lance Corporal Dean Robert Morocco, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant First Class Jamie Scott Nicholas, United States Army. Specialist Christopher T. Fox, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Gary J. Vasquez, United States Army. Captain Richard G. Cliff Jr., United States Army. Petty Officer Third Class George Scott Marlowe III, United States Navy. Petty Officer First Class Patricia Tate.
First Lieutenant Andrew Neil Caldwell, United States Army. Private First Class Christopher A. Barkowitz, United States Army. Sergeant Christina Elizabeth Smith, United States Army. Major George Edward Wary Jr., United States Army. Sergeant Christina E. Lork Smith, United States Army. Major Jose Jamil Miranda, United States Army. Lieutenant Commander Michael John Reckling, United States Navy. Major Torrey Gene Carpenter, United States Army. Private First Class Tavares Bernard Setzler, United States Army. Private First Class Zernick Jason Eric Vaughn, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Neil Christopher Hockenbarger, United States Air Force. Specialist Jason E. Vaughn Zernick, Army National Guard. Lieutenant Junior Grade Christopher Edward Smeglin, United States Navy. Private First Class Willie James Wiley Jr., United States Army. Tech Sergeant Clayton David Edwards, United States Air Force. Specialist Aaron Hakeem Hillary, United States Army. Sergeant Lucas Timothy Stanford, United States Army. Airman First Class Sean Anthony Janicek, United States Air Force. Private Petty Officer First Class Robert Lamar Robinson, United States Navy. Sergeant William P. Rudd, United States Army. Okay. Private first. Private Jessica Josephine Chemnitz, United States Army. Colonel Michael R. Stallman, United States Marine Corps. Private Petty Officer Second Class Michael C. Kask, United States Navy. Staff Sergeant Clinton Allen Carver, United States Army. Private First Class Taylor Donald Norris, United States Army. Lieutenant Colonel Morris Ostroff, United States Army. Senior Airman Jacob Allen Butler, United Air National Guard. Captain Ulysses J. Abalo, United States Army. Sergeant First Class David Dwayne Pate, United States Army.
So those are our names that we ran for today for the dates of August 13th through October 8th, 2008. But we would like anyone in here who would like to say the name of their loved one, whether it be any era of war or it's a family friend, anyone you know who you have lost, we'd like you to say their name out loud.
Private First Class Cody Baker, on 3rd, 2011, Indiana State.
Army Second Lieutenant Luther S. James, January 27th, 2004. Specialist Matthew Walker, June 5th, 2014.
I have Master Sergeant Bernie Dagan, September 15, 2006 in Afghanistan.
Justin, Gunnery Sergeant Justin Robert Martoni, March 7, 2006 in Iraq.
Have a moment. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all for being here.
I see we have one more thing for you guys here. Bill, Lauren, if you would come up.
On behalf of Jackson County's fallen, I'd like to present you with this plate in remembrance of them. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for coming out. We're gonna go out and clean the RVs. For those who are gonna join us for dinner, what time is it? Anybody? No, my watch is done.
6:47.
7:30?
Thank you all for being here.
7:15? 7:15, we're gonna